The dimensional rift opened like a wound in space. Daewon watched it from the bridge of the Eternal Vigil and tried not to think about the fact that he would never see normal space again. 2,500 ships of the Exodus fleet hung in formation behind him. Half their strength, half their people. All volunteers, they weren't alone. The Valnar had sent 500 ships. The Sitari sent 200. Even the Krell, who had fought everyone for centuries, sent 100 of their finest vessels. Species that had been strangers months ago now prepared to die together. Young-Ho sat at the pilot's station, his hand steady on the controls. Thelrin stood beside him, having transferred from the Valnar fleet to serve on the Eternal Vigil. They had become brothers in the short time they'd known each other. "When we get to the other side," Thelrin said quietly, "what do you think we'll find?" Young-Ho didn't know how to answer. The probes they'd sent through showed nothing but darkness. Not empty space, but the absence of everything. The place where reality went to die. "Each other," Young-Ho finally said. "We'll find each other." "That's enough." Hana moved through the ship, saying goodbye to crew members who had chosen to stay behind. Taeyang had drawn the short straw. Someone had to maintain the shields in normal space, and he was the best engineer they had. He hugged Hana like a man saying goodbye to his sister. "Keep them safe," she whispered. "Keep yourself alive," he replied. But they both knew that wasn't possible. Yoon had become the fleet's tactical coordinator. She studied the shield anchor points, calculating where each ship needed to position itself inside the silence's dimension. The math was brutal. Ships had to spread out across impossible distances to create a stable network. Communication would be nearly impossible. Each crew would be alone in the dark. "We'll have to trust each other," she told Daewon. "Trust that everyone holds their position. Trust that no one breaks." "We're human," Daewon said. "We don't break," but he wondered if that was true. Could they hold their positions for years? Decades? Centuries? The dimensional anchors needed time to permanently seal the rift. Time measured in generations. Dr. Boram had made a discovery in the final days before departure. The transcended humans, the ones who had evolved beyond physical form, were still watching. They existed in the quantum foam of reality itself, observing but unable to act. "They're proud of us," Boram said, tears in her eyes. "I can feel it in the data. They're so proud that we chose to do this." "They designed us to choose it," Daewon replied bitterly. "No. They gave us the tools and hoped we'd be brave enough. There's a difference." The countdown reached 0. Daewon opened the fleet-wide channel one last time. "To everyone who chose to stay behind, remember us. Tell our story. Make sure the galaxy knows what we did here. And to everyone coming with me into the dark, I'm honored to stand with you. Humanity has faced extinction before. We've stared into the void and refused to blink. Today we do it again. Today we save a galaxy that isn't even ours anymore. Because that's what humans do. We see people who need help and we help them. No matter the cost." He closed the channel and gave the order. "All ships enter the rift." The Eternal Vigil led the way. The dimensional rift swallowed them, and reality turned inside out. Inside the silence's dimension, physics worked differently. Time flowed strangely. Space curved in ways that hurt to perceive. Daewon felt his mind straining to process what he was seeing. But the fleet held together. Ship by ship, they took their positions. They activated their dimensional drives and became anchors, pinning reality in place against the collapse. It worked. Back in normal space, Taeyang watched the shield stabilize. The silence stopped advancing. Worlds that had been doomed were suddenly safe. The collapse was halted. But inside the rift, the fleet paid the price. The dimensional energy tore at their ships. Crews aged rapidly, their bodies unable to handle the stress. Systems failed. People died. Young-Ho held Thelrin as the Valnar's body began to break down. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I'm so sorry I brought you here." "You didn't bring me," Thelrin gasped. I chose to stand with humans. To stand with my friend. No regrets." Thelrin died with a smile. Young-Ho cremated his body in the ship's reactor and kept flying. Kept holding his position. Kept anchoring reality for the living. Months passed. Years. The fleet spread across the dimensional void, each ship a lighthouse in the dark. They couldn't communicate directly anymore, but they could sense each other through the dimensional energy. They knew they weren't alone. Then something impossible happened. Daewon detected other ships, not human ships, not Valnar or Sitari. These vessels were ancient, their designs completely alien. They appeared out of the dimensional static one by one. A communication came through, translated by systems he didn't recognize. Humans, is that what you call yourselves? We are the remnants, the last survivors of civilizations that came before yours. We've been watching, waiting. Waiting for what? Day One asked. For someone brave enough to join us. Welcome to the vigil, humans. You're not the first to sacrifice everything to hold back the collapse. You won't be the last. They weren't alone. Other species from earlier ages had done the same thing. They had entered the silence's dimension and become eternal guardians, holding reality together so the next civilizations could thrive. The remnants shared their technology, their knowledge, their understanding. They showed the humans how to survive in this place, how to maintain the anchors for millennia instead of decades, how to exist between dimensions without losing their minds. This is the cycle, one remnant explained. Civilizations rise. They face the collapse. The brave ones sacrifice themselves to protect those who come after. And when those new civilizations mature, they face their own choice. Some run, some hide, some transcend, but a few, the special ones, they choose to stand vigil. Day One realized the truth. Humanity hadn't failed by transcending. They had succeeded by leaving behind people who would choose differently, who would choose sacrifice over survival. Back in normal space, 100 years had passed. The shields held strong. The silence had been pushed back to the dimensional rift and locked there. The galaxy was safe. Tai Yang was an old man now. He stood in the memorial park on Earth looking at the monument they had built. 5,000 names carved in stone that would last forever. The crews of the Exodus fleet who had entered the rift. Hana's name was there. Young-Ho's, Yoon's, Day One's, all of them. They're not dead, someone said beside him. It was a young Valnar, barely an adult. The echoes say they're still there. Still watching, still protecting us. Tai Yang nodded. That's what humans do. We watch, we protect. We stand between the dark and everyone else. Earth had changed. Humans had returned, building small settlements on their ancient homeworld. They shared it with the Sitari and dozens of other species. It had become a symbol of unity, of different peoples living together. The Department of Human Memory, led by scholars and historians, preserved everything about humanity's past. They taught the old languages. They kept the old stories alive. They made sure no one forgot where they came from. In orbit, the remaining half of the Exodus fleet had become the core of a new galactic defense force. Joint crews from 100 species trained together, ready to face whatever threats might come. Young people joined eagerly. Humans like Minseo, who wanted to honor her ancestors. Falnar like Kelthus, who believed in the precursor ideals. Satori like Swimmer in Deep Waters, who dreamed of the stars. They called themselves the Vigil's children, the inheritors of humanity's sacrifice, and once a year on Emergence Day the entire galaxy paused. They looked toward the dimensional rift and remembered. They told stories of the fleet that had saved them. They thanked the humans who had chosen death over survival. Deep in the dimensional void, Day One felt their gratitude like warmth against the cold. He couldn't return to them. He would never see Earth again, but he could watch. He could protect. Around him, the remnants kept their eternal guard, ships from a dozen dead civilizations, all unified in purpose. And now human ships among them. A message arrived, translated through dimensions. It came from the transcended humans, the quantum ghosts who had evolved beyond physical form. We're proud of you, the message said. You chose to be human when you could have been gods. You chose to serve when you could have ruled. You chose sacrifice when you could have survived. That's what makes humanity special. Not your technology, not your intelligence. Your willingness to stand in the dark so others can live in the light. Day One smiled. He thought of Young-Ho and Thelrin. He thought of Hana and Yoon and all the others who had followed him into the void. He thought of the civilizations thriving because of their choice. Send a message back, he told his communication officer. Tell them we're fine. Tell them we're exactly where we're supposed to be. Tell them humanity's echo will never fade. The message went out across dimensions, across time, across the gulf between the living and the eternal. In the galaxy, people heard it and wept. In the void, the vigil continued. And somewhere between dimensions, in the quantum foam of reality itself, the transcended humans watched their children with pride. Humanity had vanished 500,000 years ago, but they had never truly left. They remained in the ruins that taught, in the genes that sparked intelligence. Historian Subin found the first cache 3 days after the silence was detected. She had been exploring the ruins of Mars, searching through collapsed human settlements when her scanner picked up something deep underground. A vault sealed with technology that predated the Exodus fleet by centuries. "Captain, you need to see this," she said over the comm. Her voice shook with excitement. Day One took a shuttle to Mars with Hana and Tae Yang. They descended into tunnels that burrowed kilometers into the red planet's crust. The vault door was massive, covered in human writing from the old world. Instructions in 50 languages, all saying the same thing. For those who come after, for those who will stand against the dark. The door recognized their DNA and opened. Inside, weapons waited, not guns or missiles, but something far stranger. Devices that could fold space, create pocket dimensions, anchor reality itself against forces that tried to erase it. Each one was labeled with careful instructions written in simple language. "They knew," Taeyang whispered. "The people who made these knew the silence would come back. They knew we would need this. How many more vaults are there?" Daewon asked Subin. She checked her datapad. "The archive on Earth mentions hundreds. On every world humans settled, they left these hidden gifts. They were preparing the entire galaxy for a threat they knew would return." Back on the Eternal Vigil, Dr. Kyung was making her own discoveries. She had been studying tissue samples from the Valnar and other species. What she found changed everything. "Their DNA has human markers," she told Daewon in the medical bay. "Subtle ones buried deep. Every intelligent species in this region of space has them. Captain, humanity didn't just leave behind ruins and weapons. They modified life itself. They gave intelligence to species that would evolve after they were gone." Daewon felt sick. Why would they do that? Because they needed someone to inherit the galaxy, Hana said quietly. She had been listening from the doorway. They knew they were leaving. They knew the silence would return. So they made sure there would be civilizations ready to face it. They made sure we wouldn't be alone. Young-ho, one of the fleet's pilots, had become friends with a Valnar officer named Thelrin during the first meetings. Now they spent hours together, comparing notes on ship designs and tactical formations. Young-ho found himself liking the alien, despite how strange Thelrin looked. "Tell me honestly," Young-ho said one day in the Eternal Vigil's observation deck. "Are your people afraid of us?" Thelrin's eyes dimmed, which Young-ho had learned meant sadness. "Some are. You are the precursors made flesh. You command technology we barely understand. Your smallest ships could destroy our largest cities. Yes, we are afraid. We don't want to destroy anything," Young-ho said. "We just want to help." "That's what makes it worse," Thelrin replied. "If you wanted to conquer, we would know how to respond. But you offer help, and that means accepting that we are children compared to you. It means admitting we have been living in your shadow for our entire history." Young-ho had never thought about it that way. To the humans, they were the ones out of time, lost and confused. But to the galaxy, they were legends coming back to judge the world that had replaced them. The tensions exploded when a radical Valnar faction attacked one of the smaller fleet vessels. They used stolen human technology, weapons taken from a vault they had discovered years ago and kept secret. The attack killed 30 crew members before the ship's defenses destroyed the attackers. Commander Hyun wanted immediate retaliation. "We can't let this stand. If we show weakness, more attacks will come," but Daewon refused. "If we retaliate, we prove their fears right. We become the monsters they're afraid of." Instead, Ji-won worked with the moderate Valnar leaders to expose the radical faction's plans. They discovered the group had been planning to seize all the human vaults and use them to dominate the galaxy. The revelation shocked the Valnar collective and turned public opinion against the radicals. Thelrin spoke at the trial that followed. "The humans could have destroyed us for this attack. Instead, they chose justice. They chose to let us handle our own people. This is the proof we needed. The precursors have not returned to rule us. They have returned to stand beside us." But the silence didn't care about politics. It moved steadily inward from the galactic rim, erasing stars and worlds as it came. The Valnar fleets tried to study it, to fight it, but nothing worked. Ships that got too close simply stopped existing. Subin spent weeks analyzing the human vaults. She found a pattern in where they were placed and what they contained. "It's like a puzzle," she explained to the command crew. "Each vault has part of the solution. Alone, they're just advanced weapons. Together, they form something bigger." "What?" Daewon asked. "A shield. A barrier that can protect entire star systems from the silence. But it requires power sources we don't have. Power sources that don't exist in this galaxy anymore." Taeyang studied the designs. "Unless you count the Exodus fleet engines." Our dimensional drives. They generate exactly the type of energy these shields need. The realization hit them all at once. The fleet wasn't just a refuge. It was the final component of humanity's plan. The vaults provided the framework, but the fleet provided the power. Together, they could save the galaxy. But using the dimensional drives would drain them completely. The fleet would be stranded, unable to return to dimensional space, unable to escape if the plan failed. We take a vote, Daewon decided. Every crew member on every ship. This isn't just my decision. The results came in over 3 days. 78% voted to use the drives. They had come back to save the galaxy. Now they would finish what their ancestors started. Insu, one of the fleet's quantum physicists, made the final breakthrough. He discovered that the shields didn't just block the silence. They could push it back, reverse its effects, even seal the dimensional rift where it originated. But someone has to go through the rift, he explained. Someone has to anchor the shields from the other side. From inside the silence's dimension, silence filled the meeting room. How many ships? Daewon asked. At least half the fleet. Maybe more. And Captain, whoever goes through won't be coming back. The rift has to be sealed permanently. Daewon looked at his crew, at Hana, who had become the fleet's heart, at Tai Yang, who had kept them running through impossible challenges, at Young Yoon, who had grown from a frightened officer into a strong leader. Then we need volunteers, he said quietly. We need people willing to save a galaxy they've only known for a few months. The responses came flooding in, not just from humans, but from the Valnar and Citari and dozens of other species. Young Ho's friend Thelrin was among the first to volunteer. You saved us once by hiding, the Valnar said. Now we save you by standing with you. The galaxy was uniting. The children were rising to stand beside their ancient parents, and together they would face the dark. Admiral Jae-hoon had been a junior officer when the fleet entered dimensional sleep. Now he commanded the defensive operations as the silence swept toward the core worlds. He stood in the war room watching tactical displays that showed the approaching death. Entire star systems winked out as the silence touched them. Not destroyed, just gone, erased from reality as if they had never existed. It moved slowly, but nothing could stop it. Conventional weapons passed through it harmlessly. Energy shields failed. Even the Valnar's most advanced technology crumbled before it. How long until it reaches the core? Jae-hoon asked. 3 months, replied his tactical officer. Maybe less. It's accelerating. 3 months to save a galaxy. 3 months to deploy shields across thousands of worlds using technology they barely understood. 3 months to convince 100 different species to trust ancient human plans. Sumin, the diplomatic coordinator, had the hardest job. She spent her days negotiating with governments that had been enemies for centuries. The silence didn't care about politics or borders. It would erase everyone equally. But old hatreds died hard. The Krell Dominion refuses to cooperate with the Valnar, she reported during one exhausting briefing. They say they'd rather face the silence than work with their ancient rivals. Then they're idiots, Jae-hoon snapped. Everyone dies or everyone lives. There's no middle ground. But Sumin had learned patience during her diplomatic training. She went to the Krell homeworld herself, alone, and showed them recordings of the silence-consuming worlds. She showed them calculations proving their entire species would be erased in 6 weeks, and she showed them the human vault coordinates in their territory. Your ancestors didn't know the precursors, she told the Krell Council, but the precursors knew you would exist. They left weapons to protect you. They left plans to save you. Don't throw away their gift because of pride. The Krell agreed to join the alliance. Slowly, piece by piece, Sumin built a coalition that spanned the galaxy. Insu worked day and night studying the silence. He sent probes toward it, analyzed the readings, and slowly pieced together what it truly was. When he finally understood, he called an emergency meeting. It's not alive, he explained to the assembled commanders. It's not a weapon or a force. It's a universal process. Like entropy or gravity, every 500,000 years the universe tries to reset itself. The silence is reality collapsing back to a lower energy state. Hana struggled to follow. In simple terms, imagine a wave at the beach, Insu said. The wave builds and builds, then crashes. The universe does the same thing. It expands in complexity, then collapses. The silence is the collapse. And we're trying to stop it. Can we? Daewon asked. The calculations say yes. If we anchor enough points in reality, we can stabilize it. We can prevent the collapse. But Captain, Humanity must have known this would require an enormous sacrifice. The anchors need constant power, constant maintenance. They need someone to stay behind and hold them in place. From inside the silence's dimension, Day One finished. We anchor reality from the other side. Insu nodded. The fleet was always meant to be the sacrifice, the final gift from humanity to the universe they left behind. The first shield went active above a Valnar colony world. Taeyang had spent weeks teaching the Valnar engineers how to connect the vault weapons to the fleet's power cores. When they activated it, a dome of shimmering energy spread across the planet. The silence touched the shield and stopped. For the first time in recorded history, something had blocked it. The colony erupted in celebration. Across the galaxy, billions watched the broadcast. The precursor weapons worked. The human plan worked. There was hope. But activating one shield had drained 3 ships completely. Their dimensional drives were burned out, their power cores empty, and they needed to protect thousands of worlds. "We don't have enough ships," Taeyang reported grimly. "Even with Valnar and Satari vessels helping, we can protect maybe 1/3 of the inhabited systems. The rest will be erased. Then we prioritize," Jaehoon said. "We save the most populated worlds first." "Who decides?" Hana asked quietly. "Who chooses which civilizations live and which ones die?" The question hung in the air. No one wanted that responsibility, but someone had to take it. Daewon made lists. He consulted with Sumin and the allied governments. They chose worlds based on population, strategic importance, and cultural significance. Every choice felt like murder. Every world they left unprotected was a death sentence for billions. Then the echoes activated. They appeared across the galaxy simultaneously. Holograms that looked human but moved wrong, spoke wrong, thought wrong. They were artificial intelligences containing human consciousness patterns. Humanity's final gift to the future. The echoes knew things the fleet didn't. They revealed hidden vaults, showed faster ways to deploy shields, taught advanced techniques for maximizing power efficiency. With their help, the number of protectable worlds doubled. But they also revealed the truth. The full truth about what happened to humanity. One echo appeared on the Eternal Vigil's bridge. It looked like an old man, weathered and tired. "We didn't transcend because we wanted to," it said. "We transcended because we had no choice. The silence was coming and we couldn't stop it. So we evolved beyond physical form. We became something that exists in probability states and quantum possibilities. We spread ourselves across dimensions so thinly that the silence couldn't touch us. But you left us behind," Daewon said. "We left you behind because someone needs to be physical," the echo replied. "Someone needs to anchor reality. Someone needs to sacrifice themselves so everyone else can live. That's what humans do. We see the cliff ahead and we throw ourselves off it so others can cross safely." "That's not fair," Yoon said. "Why should we die for people we don't even know?" The echo smiled sadly. "Because that's what makes us human. Not our technology. Not our intelligence. Our willingness to sacrifice everything for those who come after us." The Allied fleets gathered at the galactic core, thousands of ships from hundreds of species, united under human command. Jaehoon stood on the bridge of his flagship and felt the weight of history pressing down. "We have enough shields to protect the core worlds," he announced across all channels. "The outer rim will be lost. But most of the galaxy will survive. Most of the civilizations will endure. Most," Daewon said quietly beside him. "Not all. No, not all." The silence reached the first shield line. The barriers held. Systems that should have been erased remained intact. The population centers of the galaxy survived behind walls of human technology, powered by human sacrifice. But the silence didn't stop. It pressed against the shields, testing them, pushing them, and slowly ships began to fail. Power cores burned out. Shields collapsed. Worlds died. "We need to take the fight to the source," Insu said. "We need to go through the dimensional rift and seal it from inside. It's the only way." Daewon had known this moment would come. He had volunteered to lead the assault into the silence's dimension. Half the fleet would go with him. They would anchor the shields from the other side, hold reality together until the rift could be permanently sealed, and they would never come home. "Begin preparations," he ordered. "We enter the rift in 72 hours. Every volunteer, every ship, every weapon we have left. We're going to save this galaxy even if it kills us." Around him his crew saluted. They had known. They had all known since the beginning. The Exodus fleet wasn't meant to reclaim the galaxy. It was meant to die for it. The delegation arrived in ships that looked like living things. They curved and flowed instead of having straight lines. Day One watched them approach on the view screen and felt his stomach turn. Nothing looked right. Nothing looked human. Ambassador Ji-won stood beside him on the bridge. She had been a diplomat before the long sleep, trained to meet aliens and make peace. But that was 500,000 years ago. The rules had changed. "How do we greet them?" she asked quietly. "Carefully," Day One replied. The alien ships docked with the Eternal Vigil one by one. Day One had ordered Commander Hyun to keep weapons ready but hidden. If this went wrong, if these aliens meant harm, the fleet needed to be ready. The first aliens to board were tall and thin, with skin that shimmered like oil on water. They had 4 arms and eyes that glowed softly in the dim light. One of them stepped forward and spoke through a translation device hanging from its neck. "I am First Speaker Nalith of the Valnar Collective. We govern this region of space. We maintain the sacred worlds where the precursors once lived." The alien's head tilted. "You claim to be these precursors. You claim to be human." Ji-won bowed slightly the way she had been taught for first contact. "We are human. We are the descendants of Earth. We left this place 500,000 years ago to escape something we called the Silence. Now we have returned." Nalith's eyes brightened. "The Silence, yes, the old records speak of it. A great darkness that swept the galaxy. When it passed, the humans were gone. We thought they had been consumed. We thought they were dead. We hid," Day One said, "in a place outside normal space. We waited until it was safe." More aliens entered the docking bay now. Some looked like insects, others like birds. One species seemed to be made of living crystal. They all stared at the humans with the same expression: wonder, fear, disbelief. Dr. Boram had been studying the alien ship designs during the approach. Now she spoke up from her console. "Your technology is based on gravitational manipulation. You bend space instead of pushing through it. That's not how human ships worked." "Where did you learn this?" Nalith turned to face her. "From the ruins. The precursors left buildings and machines across thousands of worlds. We studied them. We learned from them. All the great civilizations of this age built themselves on human foundations." The words hit Day One hard. Humanity hadn't just vanished. They had left behind the seeds of everything that came after. "We need to see Earth," Ji-won said. "We need to understand what happened there." Nalith's body tensed. "Earth is forbidden. No one may land there. It is the most sacred of all sacred places. The homeworld of the precursors must remain untouched." "It's our home," Day One said, his voice hard. "You can't keep us from our own planet." The aliens spoke among themselves in languages the translator couldn't follow. Finally, Nalith turned back. "We will allow a small group to visit the surface. But you must understand what you will find there. Earth is not empty, but it is not yours anymore." They took a shuttle down the next day. Day One insisted on going himself along with Ji-won, Hana, and Boram. Commander Hyun stayed behind to watch the fleet. The Valnar provided an escort of their own ships, surrounding the human shuttle as it dropped through Earth's atmosphere. The planet looked so familiar and so wrong at the same time. The continents had shifted slightly. The ice caps were different sizes. But it was still Earth, still home. They landed near what had once been New York City. Nothing remained of the towers and streets. Instead, massive trees covered the land, each one hundreds of meters tall. Crystal structures grew between them, pulsing with soft light. And in the distance, Day One could see the ocean. "The Cetari live in the waters," Nalith explained as they walked through the forest. "They evolved from the sea creatures the humans left behind. Dolphins, the old records call them. Now they have hands and tools and language. They worship the memory of humans who gave them intelligence before disappearing." Hana was crying again. "We didn't give them intelligence. They were always smart. We just never listened." The crystal structures turned out to be archives. Libraries built by the Valnar to preserve everything they had found about humanity. Boram spent hours inside scanning documents and artifacts. She emerged pale and shaking. "They know everything about us," she whispered. "Our history, our art, our science. They've studied us for hundreds of thousands of years. We're like gods to them." "We're not gods," Day One said. "We're just people who ran away." Ji-won found the answer they were looking for in the deepest archive. A message left behind in a format designed to last forever. When she activated it, a hologram appeared. A human hologram. The woman in the projection looked tired but calm. If you're seeing this, then the Exodus fleet has returned. Good. That means the plan worked. Daewon felt his throat tighten. This woman had been alive when he went to sleep. She had watched him leave. The silence couldn't be stopped, the hologram continued, but it could be survived. Most of humanity chose to evolve beyond physical form. We became something else, something that exists in quantum states across multiple dimensions. We transcended. Borum's hands covered her mouth. They're still alive. Humanity didn't die. We left the Exodus fleet behind as insurance, the woman said, in case something went wrong. In case we were needed again in physical form. In case the galaxy needed protecting. She smiled sadly. You are the last true humans. The last ones who remember what it was like to be us. Take care of the galaxy we left behind. It's yours now. The hologram faded. They stood in silence for a long time. So that's it, Hyun said when they returned to the ship. We're relics. We're leftovers from a civilization that doesn't exist anymore. No, Daewon said firmly. We're humans. We're still here, and if they left us behind for a reason, we need to find out what that reason is. The Valnar Collective debated for weeks about what to do with the fleet. Some wanted to welcome them as honored ancestors. Others feared their ancient weapons and technology. A few radical groups said humanity should have stayed gone, that the galaxy belonged to the new civilizations now. Then the sensors detected something at the edge of the galaxy, a wave of energy moving inward. The same energy signature recorded in the ancient logs from the silence. It was coming back. Daewon stood on the bridge and watched the readings scroll past. 500,000 years. Humanity had waited 500,000 years. And now he understood why. They weren't here to reclaim the galaxy. They were here to save it. Get me the Valnar, he ordered. Get me every government, every fleet, every species that can fight. Tell them the humans have a message. Ji-won looked at him. What message? Daewon smiled grimly. That the precursors left them one last gift. Us. And we know how to stop what's coming. The galaxy was about to learn what humans were really capable of. The cold left Daewon's body slowly, like ice melting under a distant sun. His fingers twitched first, then his eyes opened to darkness. The cryopod hummed around him, and green lights blinked in patterns he almost remembered. How long had it been? The question formed in his mind before he could even recall his own name. Metal groaned as the pod door slid open. Daewon gasped, pulling air into lungs that hadn't breathed in centuries. No, not centuries. The display on the wall showed numbers that made no sense. 502,000 years. That couldn't be right. The mission called for a 50-year sleep, maybe 100 if things went wrong. He stumbled out onto the cold floor of the ship. The eternal vigil stretched around him in silence. Emergency lights cast red shadows down empty corridors. Daewon grabbed the wall to steady himself and started walking toward the bridge. Each step felt heavy, wrong. His body remembered being young and strong, but now everything ached. The bridge doors opened with a soft hiss. Inside, more cryopods lined the walls. One by one, they were opening. Daewon watched as Hana emerged from her pod, coughing and shaking. Then Taeyang, who immediately vomited onto the floor. Then Young-Yoon, who looked around with wide, frightened eyes. Captain, Hana's voice was rough. What happened? Why do I feel so strange? Daewon pointed at the main display. The numbers glowed there, impossible and certain. 500,000 years had passed while they slept. The ship's computer had kept them frozen, waiting for something. Waiting for what? Taeyang pulled himself to the engineering console. His fingers moved across the controls, calling up system reports. The fleet is intact, he said. All 5,000 ships are here. We're in some kind of void space. Not normal space, not hyperspace. Something else. Yoon moved to the tactical station. Her hands shook as she activated the sensors. Captain, I'm not detecting anything. No stars, no planets, no radiation. It's like we're nowhere. Check the logs, Daewon ordered. His voice came out stronger than he felt. Find out why we woke up now. The computer's voice filled the bridge, calm and ancient. It spoke in the old Earth language they all knew. Awakening sequence initiated. Stellar alignment detected. The silence has passed. Primary mission objectives may now be resumed. The silence. Daewon felt the word hit him like a physical blow. Memories came flooding back. Earth burning. Cities falling into darkness. Entire star systems going quiet one by one. Something had been moving through the galaxy, erasing everything it touched. Not destroying, not conquering, just making things stop existing. Humanity's greatest minds had worked for decades on a solution. They couldn't fight the silence. They couldn't run from it, but they could hide. They could wait. "We're the Exodus fleet," Day One said quietly. "The last humans. They hid us in a pocket dimension and told us to sleep until it was safe." Hana was crying. Taeyang had gone pale. Hun just stared at the empty space beyond the view screen. "Where is everyone else?" Yoon asked. "Where's Earth? Where's the colony worlds? Where's the rest of humanity?" Day One didn't have an answer. The computer did. All attempts to contact human settlements have failed. No human signals detected in observable space. Dimensional barrier will dissolve in 3 hours. Fleet will emerge at coordinates of former Sol system. 3 hours. Day One spent them waking the rest of his crew. Throughout the eternal vigil, people stumbled from their pods into a nightmare. They had said goodbye to their families for what was supposed to be a few decades. Now everyone they knew was dust. Everything they had fought to protect was gone, but they were soldiers. They were survivors. They had a mission. When the ship emerged from the pocket dimension, the sensors went wild. Space existed again around them. Stars shone in unfamiliar patterns. The galaxy had moved, turned, changed completely in 500,000 years. "Scanning for Sol," Taeyang reported. "Found it. But Captain, you need to see this." The view screen shifted to show a yellow star. 8 planets orbited it in patterns that were almost right. The third planet was blue and green and beautiful. Earth. It had to be Earth. But something was wrong. "I'm detecting life signs," Yoon said. "Millions of them, billions. The planet is inhabited." "By who?" Hana asked. "Humans? I don't know. The signatures are biological but strange. And Captain, I'm picking up artificial structures. Cities, ships, there's a whole civilization down there." Day One gripped his chair. "Hail them. All frequencies. Let them know we're here." The communication went out into the void. For long minutes, nothing came back. Then the speakers crackled to life. The voice that answered was not human. It spoke in clicks and whistles, and somehow the ship's computer translated it into words they could understand. "Unknown vessels. Identify yourselves. You have entered protected space. This world is sacred ground. State your purpose or be removed." Sacred ground. They were calling Earth sacred ground. Day One took a breath and opened the channel. "This is Captain Day One of the human ship Eternal Vigil. We are the Exodus fleet returning home. Earth is our birth world. We mean no harm. We only want to understand what happened." Silence filled the bridge. Then the alien voice returned, and this time it sounded different. Shocked, afraid, impossible. "Humans are extinct. They vanished 500,000 years ago. You cannot be real." "We are real," Day One said. "We were hidden. We were waiting. And now we've come back." More voices joined the channel now, talking over each other in dozens of languages. The computer struggled to translate them all. Words jumped out at Day One. Precursors, ancients, legends, the first ones. Humanity had become a myth. "Please," Day One said, "we need to understand. What happened to our people? What happened to our worlds? Where did everyone go?" The original voice returned. "We will send a delegation. Do not approach the sacred world. Do not activate weapons. We will meet you in neutral space and share what we know. The galaxy has been waiting for this moment, though none of us believed it would ever come. Welcome back, humans. Welcome back to a galaxy that has forgotten you." The channel closed. Day One sat back in his chair and looked at his crew. They were the last humans. They were myths made real. And somewhere out there in the strange new galaxy, answers waited. The awakening was complete. Now the real journey would begin.